Good morning and welcome to the Paraprofessional Lounge. I am so excited to be here to chat with you today about what is a paraprofessional. So this channel is for paraprofessionals and substitute teachers. However, I know that quite a few substitutes become paras or paras. Substitutes can sub for a para, so I think that it's all like interchangeable, and the same things that we chat about for specifically for paras can really be great for substitute teachers as well, even though I know substitute teaching can be more like a one-off, or maybe you do it for a period of time, where a paraprofessional is you're in the classroom a lot more. It's a more consistent role. But in any case, you could be a long-term sub, you could be subbing for a para. So I really want to make sure that you also feel just as empowered. And that's why I also dedicated this channel to not only paraprofessionals, but also substitute teachers as well. So I'm Andy, I am your host. I am the selling author of this book, How Do I Deal with My Emotions? And I work in schools. I train teachers and different staff. I've worked with kids of different ages. I work one-on-one as a trauma-informed mentor and nervous system specialist. And I'm here because I'm passionate about empowering paraprofessionals and substitute teachers. I've worked in a school, I've worked in different schools, I've seen the way that paraprofessionals kind of operate in the school and in the community, and I really wanted to support them ongoing. I can say from my own experiences that paraprofessionals don't exactly have always the best training. Now, I can't speak for every district, but I know that a lot of districts, they don't provide a lot of that ongoing training like a teacher gets. So I felt I would take matters in my own hands and support you here by providing you with trainings and support and a platform that you could come to feel empowered, to get some resources, to build your skill set, and then go into next school year, the 24-25 school year, feeling so much better, feeling so appreciated, feeling ready and empowered with all these skills and different tools that you're going to learn here on this channel. I also have a Facebook group, Paraprofessional Lounge, and I'll drop a link to that here as well. So for right now, I want to chat with you a little bit about what is a para, and I have some notes here because I don't get the best memory. But why is that important? Well, I want you to know what a paraprofessional is. So a paraprofessional can either work in private school and in public school. They're basically they're a pupil of the school, and they're there to support students, give them that added extra support, especially for the ones that need it. And they can either run a whole classroom, or they can run the classroom alongside the teacher. Now, they are there to support the lead teacher, but if you're lucky, you'll have a teacher that really values the paraprofessional in the classroom, and she will or he will offer you an option to be a co-teacher, to teach alongside them. So you're not an outsider, but you're really involved in the day-to-day stuff and there to support the students and how the classroom is running. So a paraprofessional is a teacher's assistant, right? You might even hear them call them para-educators or teacher's assistants or teacher's aides, right? So there could be different titles depending on where you work, what school or district you're in. So the para's role, ideally the role is a hands-on support in the classroom. They are doing everything from behavior management to setting up the classroom routines. There could be different duties. Like I even have had some paras doing bus duty or even doing like lunch duty or recess duty. So they can kind of move around in the school and do lots of different roles, which can be quite challenging if you're thrown into things without really knowing what your role is. So you may be in a general education classroom, or you may not be. You could be in a special ed classroom, but you serve as the guide. You serve as the guide for behavior. You serve as a guide for instructional things. You serve as a guide to support those students and whatever else they need. You could also be preparing the classroom or preparing the social setting, whatever that may be. You're adapting to classroom behaviors. So you might be thrown into a classroom and there could be 2 to 3 students that you're working with in a group, and you have to be able to adapt to those behaviors pretty quickly. A para's job is to reinforce lessons. That's what a para does. You're either working one-on-one or you're working in small groups. You're assisting students with different needs. You're walking around the classroom. It may not be even the student that you're working with specifically. You might have to bop around to different groups or to kind of just overall be like the support. I think that makes a great para when they're open to supporting the whole class versus just like sticking with their 1 or 2 kids, even though that might be what you have to do because these 1 or 2 kids really need that instructional support or behavioral support. So again, this isn't dictated by this. It's dictated by what is needed in your classroom. You're also there to help give student breaks. A lot of times students need the breaks, especially the ones with the behavioral stuff. So they may need to take a walk, or they need different things that can support them during like transition times, okay? You may be in a contained classroom, so you may not have an opportunity to go to a lunchroom or to go out for recess. You'll probably have some break time because it's important to give students breaks, kids breaks, but if it's a contained classroom, you're mainly in that classroom, and that could be more like a special education classroom. So that is like what a para does, the overview of a para's job. Now, this list is kind of endless. You can do a myriad of different duties. And as we get deeper into this channel and more, chats that we have, you will learn about different roles and responsibilities a para can have. Moving on to what are some of the skills. So I wanted to just jot down the most important skills I feel that a para should have, and what we're gonna build on, what we're gonna build on here in this space. So number 1, really strong verbal communication. You're not only communicating with the students, you're communicating with the staff, your teacher, the guidance counselors, and anybody else that you need in the school community. You're communicating with them. You are part of that community. Nonverbal. We're going to go over this during our first workshop, but nonverbal communication is what's really important because a lot of times paras and substitutes don't really get to say much. They're more nonverbal. So there's these cues that you can learn and offer to help really set the environment, right? Because the nonverbal communication, especially with some students, can affect the setting. So if you don't have nonverbal communicating skills, that can really kind of disrupt things. Because again, your voice isn't always heard, especially if there's a teacher in the classroom. So you may have to be nonverbal with your student. Getting to know different types of learners, being open to different types of learners. You don't know always what you're walking into, what type of learner that you're gonna have. You might have a couple of different types of learners. So that is a skill that you wanna build. Adapting to the environment, adapting to the different students' needs. Every student will have different needs. I know from personal experience, when I was a para, I bounced around between grades and classrooms. So I was subbing for like one grade and I had like 1 or 2 kids, then I would be bounced around to the next grade and have a couple of more kids. So it's really, you need to adapt very quickly to the environment and the type of learner that they are without really having a handbook, without knowing what am I walking into. And we'll get into that a little bit later too. Also, the ability to assist the teacher, right? Assist the teachers, the counselors, and anybody else that you might be working with in that time frame. A good listener. It's important to listen. If you are getting instructions, if you're a substitute and they leave instructions for you, follow the instructions, right? I know a lot of times substitutes go off the instructions, because it's just easier to sit there and sit on their phone or sit on their computer and let the class kind of do what it wants to do. But it's important that you stick with the structure so it keeps everything in line and they know the expectations of the class and the repercussions if they're not listening or behaving or whatnot. So really important to listen to the teacher's instructions, to the teacher's wishes and desires for her classroom or his classroom. So you really want to make sure that you are versatile in all the things, but you also can adapt easy to them. Advocation. You are the advocator for your students. You are the ones that's making the referrals. You are the one that could be making the recommendations. It's important if your student or students can't advocate for themselves, you're able to advocate for them with the teachers, with the other staff in the community, in the school community. Excellent team player. Listen, first and foremost, you've got to be a team player. You're in there to provide a service. You're in that school to support the students. That is the number one priority. But yes, you might get thrust into a classroom that it's unexpected. You might get thrust into a situation where it's not super comfortable. Being a team player, really listening, really having an open mind, and being a good advocate will get you through. I promise you. Innovator. It's great if you can innovate. If in the moment that you need to change things up or mix things up or support a child in a different way. I know when I was a para, I had a kid that was leaving the room a lot, and I had to innovate really quickly on how to get them to stay in the room. So that might be something that you might want to do as well. Trauma informed. That's basically why I'm here. I know that they don't put you through specific trauma-informed trainings. I'm not, again, saying that all districts do this, but I know a lot of them don't do specific trauma-informed training or trauma awareness training. And a lot of the things that you're working with, the kids that you're working with, there is trauma at the helm of that, whether that's physical trauma, emotional trauma, social trauma. They have some, autism, learning disabilities, behavioral issues, emotional things. It runs the gamut. We want to make sure that we can meet them at the level that they're at and support them at that level with that empathy and understanding, but also be able to set boundaries and hold them firm, because otherwise things get overwhelmed and out of control. So we will go through the trauma-informed classroom training, the exact training that I give to teachers and therapists and counselors and parents. Reinforcing concepts. This is another thing, another skill that you might want to hang on to here is reinforcing. Are you good with taking the concept and being able to reinforce it, the concept from the teacher, the concept from the classroom, and reinforce it to the students and continually reinforce it? We're going to go over something called rehearse and reinforce in this space. So, okay, that was the next thing, able to rehearse, and we'll go over that a little bit later. So that's just the basic, what some of the skills are that you need to be a really good, empowered paraprofessional and substitute teacher. I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe to this channel, share it, and I can't wait to bring you our very first workshop in a couple of weeks, June 15th. So make sure you sign up for that. I'll drop a link in the comments or in the notes section. I'm still new to this whole YouTube thing, but I'll drop it somewhere and you'll be able to sign up for the workshop. Have a good one.